My name is Rachel Bynum. I run Waterpenny Farm with my husband, Eric Plaxon. Our two sons are Nicholas Plaxon and Isaac Plaxon. We are named after a macroinvertebrate called a waterpenny, and you can find waterpennies only in clean water. So it became a symbol of our farm because of our ecological growing methods. Well, we started when we didn't have children and we worked tremendous long hours and we didn't have all the equipment that we wanted. But the first thing that we planted on our farm were cover crops and began to prepare this soil, which had been really poorly used. It had been rented out year to year. They had just kind of gotten everything they could out of the soil, and you could tell because it was just it's still full of Johnson grass and bindweed, and it was not very good soil structure. So we knew we had to sort of rehabilitate the soil. As we were about to start our farm, we went to the Virginia Biological Farmers Conference. We heard Elaine Ingham, a soil scientist, speak. Elaine Ingham told us that if you create a farm system where you're tilling in strips, like 30-foot wide fields, and then you leave an untilled space in between the fields, that can allow for recolonization of all the microorganisms to come back to the soil. We've never tilled in these roadway spaces that are in between. So each block has its own history, and we could go back 17 years and tell you what was in each field. Yeah, this is one right here. Yeah, so as you walk around, you'll see like where you're standing. It looks like grasses right now, and there's clover growing up in there. So this hasn't been tilled since 2000. Like this section in front of the truck is one of the strips that is never tilled. And in between every field, you'll see a delineation where there's grass and clover, and whatnot. In 2007, we purchased about 100 giant bales of hay for mulch. We purchased it from a local farmer, and he had it sprayed 2 years previous to that with Grazon. If you look at the fine print of the Grazon label, it says you cannot sell it for mulch. So it's pretty persistent. We had mulched about almost 2 acres of our earliest fields with this hay. And then early June, it started raining, and rather than everything just bursting forth, the plants started growing curled leaves. Tomatoes, things like squash and cucumbers just grew these sort of like claw-like leaves. It was amazing because that essentially took 2 acres out of production. But because of our strip tillage, the herbicide wasn't able to travel. We knew specifically which fields contained it, which fields couldn't. In some ways, it saved our farm. So we used the cover crops actually to test the soil. We planted buckwheat and sorghum Sudan grass that year, and the buckwheat didn't germinate. And then for the winter cover crop, we planted clover, and the clover didn't germinate. I mean, there's a lot of qualitative life potential about cover crops that just the only way you could tell whether that herbicide was there. And we could tell when it was better because our clover germinated. And that opened us up to growing more summer cover crops. We used to feel that we needed to plant every inch of the farm every year, but now we realize we've actually reduced the area that we're planting, and we've been able to then take better care of the crops we have. Now we have switched to having summer cover crops as part of our regime, so we will do about an acre to acre and a half of our farm in cover crops in the summertime, and that's really helped us. We found that in the year that we were growing fewer acres, we were able to produce the produce we want. I couldn't name for you half or a millionth of the organisms that are on our farm that are helping us, and I don't need to know. That's one thing. I've sometimes gone to soil workshops where you're like, wow, this is so complex, and how will I ever understand how this works? If you just build the structure for it, it'll come, like it'll be there. So we have areas around the farm that we never till, sort of like refuges for the insects. They need thatch. A few years ago, we had people from Extension out here looking for stink bugs, expecting to find terrible stink bug devastation on our peppers. And they came back so excited because they found On our peppers, they found stink bugs, and they found a predator that was eating stink bug eggs. So it's like you don't even know. Like, did I try to bring, predators of stink bug eggs? No, I didn't. But I didn't kill everything on our peppers. So you need to start with your soil, because that's what can create the success of your farm. You can make a living doing this. Markets are strong. People are making it work. They're working hard, but they're making it. That's the other part that I think our farm is good at, is that we are a business. We've set these parameters because this is what we care about. And I think a business can and should have a philosophy beyond making money, but we do make money to be able to support our family and do it next year and pay our workers well, and that living soil is the best foundation for making a living farming.